Hey, what's up, guys? Nick Connor here. What would you do if I handed you this little green box with that iconic crown on the front of it, that gold crown? Some of you might not know what this box is. Some of you do, but that, my friend, is the box that contains a Rolex. And on April 4th of 2018, uh, I was given as a gift that Rolex right there. And so in this video, I want to share a quick story with you. Yes, it is about Rolex. And more importantly, it's about relationships and how both of these have tremendous value during these unprecedented times. And if you will uh, leverage either of these things, uh, you will come out better than you were before. So first, let's talk about relationships. You know, on April 4th of 2018, when I jumped on that plane and I met my best man who was waiting for me in first class with my drink, an old fashioned, I knew it was going to be an incredible weekend. We sat there and we got into deep conversation. I have incredible conversations with this guy. His name's Morris, and he's a best friend. He's a brother. He's a spiritual leader, a mentor of mine. He's greatly impacted my life. And we sat and we talked about just the journey that him and I had been together over a period of 7 or 8 years as friends, as brothers. And we shared, you know, some moments that we both were experiencing together. These were things I was going through, but because of our relationship, he was going through these things with me. We talked about, the difficulties I was having to become this version of myself that I wanted to be, that I knew I was capable of being, but was going through growing pains. We call it a crust. I was shaking off the crust from some habits that I needed to break in order to be who I wanted to be. We talked about those days. We talked about, the day that I found out that my father was addicted to heroin, and that I felt peace in my heart that I wanted him to move from Utah all the way out to Charlotte, North Carolina to come and live with me. We talked about that. And we talked about how difficult it was, um, only hours after losing my father to suicide, a year after he came and lived with me there in North Carolina, how difficult it was to understand why I had the same exact peace that I had when I lost my father. And we talked about how it could only be a God thing. And so we're sitting there in first class and we're sharing these incredible memories, and we shifted gears a little bit and we were having a drink. And next thing I know, the stewardess is standing in front of me. And I think she's bringing me another old fashioned, but she's standing in front of me with this green box. And I love a Rolex. I've always loved Rolex. This watch has been on my vision board for as long as I can remember. And she handed me this box, and I opened the box, and obviously my mind was blown. But what was really valuable was the inscription that's on the inside of this watch. And it says, "Always with you, Pop." Now, for those of you that know me, you know that I called my dad Pop. You see, this relationship with Morris and the relationship with my other groomsmen made this possible. And, I wonder for you right now what you're going through. I wonder if you've already lost your job. I wonder if you're kicking yourself in the butt a little bit because you haven't been prepared, maybe learned from the lessons of the last economic downturn that we had. And maybe you're worried about where your next paycheck's going to come from, whatever the case may be. I wonder if you're looking at opportunities to invest, to use this time to get ahead in life. I mean, my goodness, there's been so many incredible things that have happened. The amount of wealth that has been built during times like this is, it's as predictable as a recession, right? For people to double down, invest during times of scarcity. And, so whatever side of the coin you're on, what I found is that the way that you come out on the other side of something like this is always because of your relationships. I can't tell you how much business I've done with friends, with people that I have a relationship with. I would say it's well above 80, 90%. And if you ask anybody that's successful, they would tell you that's likely the case. that the people they do business with are the people that they are in relationship with. And, I wonder who in your circle right now you are not thinking about, you are not in touch with, you are not creating value for, or you're not receiving value from, right? You're not, for whatever reason, maybe it's a grudge or feeling offended. You haven't been in touch with these individuals in your life that know you, care about you, want to see you win, have the knowledge, the resources, the connections, the network to help you come out on the other side of this. And it comes down to one thing. The reason why people are investing in things like this right now, like watches, luxury watches, high-end watches, there's a whole market for this, a resale market. And these higher end watches, they hold their value even during times like this. And so you have a lot of investors out there that are, you know they know what they're doing, right? And so they're going out there trying to find some deals, certainly, but they know that the value of these watches is not going to go down. And why is that? Well, there's an intrinsic value with these watches. um, you know that is that they are made of materials that are always going to appreciate. And the depreciation of something like this happens right after you buy it retail, right? The price goes down, plateaus, and then over time these things continue to appreciate in value. Okay, and that's what drives the investment in things like this. So what does that mean, right? Let me connect the dots for you, because this really is about relationships. This isn't about Rolexes. Relationships are no different, right? We have these relationships, and we get into them, and when it's fresh and when it's new and when the environment is prime for us to have tight relationships, maybe proximity is a factor, or there's some really common bonds, like being teammates, or being friends with a spouse's uh, you know what I mean. Like those friends that you have because you married someone who has friends, right? Like the environment is conducive for it. But over time, a lot of those relationships fall off, don't they? Right? There's a plateau in the relationship for some reason, and we lose touch with these people. Maybe we move away, or we get divorced, or whatever the case may be. But those bonds are still valuable. There's still an intrinsic value there. So how do you make sure that relationships continue to appreciate? How do they become worthwhile investments? Well, what I found, man, my experience is that relationships are relationships are relationships, no matter what relationship you're in, whether it's a relationship with your wife, a relationship with your buddies, a relationship with a business partner, a relationship with your faith, your higher being, whatever that is for you. For me, it's God, Jesus. When you invest, when you take the time, when you set aside time, when you reach out, when you are hard to offend, when you communicate, those relationships have the potential to change your life from a business standpoint, from a relationship standpoint. And I can't think of anything that's been more powerful in my life and more helpful in my life than the relationships that I've had. And so I just want to encourage you right now that no matter where you're at right now, now is the time to invest, get even more invested in the relationships that you have. Find ways to create value for the people in your life. Find ways to go out and tap into the knowledge, the wisdom that other people have. The thing that we've all really been relying on in this economy, people that have been out there investing by the principle of OPM, other people's money, is again, that's a time tested principle that's never going to change. It's everlasting. However, money's going to dry up. Lending is already slowing. So what if you focused on what my good friend Alan talks about? I'm going to butcher his last name, but I want to give Alan credit because he came up with this. But he talks about OPR, other people's resources, other people's resources. And, maybe it sounds a little bit calculated to tap into other people's resources, meaning their brain power, their compassion, their support. But that's what relationships are there for. And when you can show up and you can be that shoulder to cry on, that compassionate ear, that accountability partner for the people in your life that need it, Well, I'll tell you what, that investment is going to give you big time returns, especially during times like this. And so, you know, it's pretty cool to own a Rolex. I'll tell you what, every day I put this thing on, I love it. It makes me feel incredible. Yeah, I love it. But I'll tell you what's better. It's knowing that no matter what's going on in my life, no matter how bad things get, that I have a handful of people in my life that I could call at any time and they'll always have my back. And you might not feel like you have that right now. But what I can tell you is that 7 years prior to me sitting on that plane, I didn't even know one, two, three, four of the seven people that were at my bachelor party. I didn't even know them. And these guys all pitched in and bought me a Rolex. Why does that happen? Well, these are incredible people. These are giving, caring people, but that doesn't happen without investing in the relationships. Now, look, I don't want to be the hero of this story. I'm sharing this personal story with you because it's a good story, man. But I want you to be the hero of this story. I want you to uh, go out there and reconnect with someone in your life that can uh, benefit from knowing you, from having your support, your care. And I promise you that you will never fail if you commit to that. All right, guys, that's all for today. Take care.